Hello everyone, I'm Matt Williamson. How you doing? Really chilly here in Pittsburgh, to say the least. As usual, I'm recording this probably the day before you're listening. I'm recording it on Tuesday. Sounds like Wednesday's going to be even colder, but it is about 0. So pretty chilly. I'm in my basement and I'm freezing in my basement. Just one of those things. Oh well. Today, we are going to discuss off-season assets. What resources teams have, especially the Steelers, of course, to improve their roster via the draft and free agency, cap space, etc. Pro Football Focus put this out the other day where they broke it down basically into you have this much cap space, you have this much draft capital, and real quick, draft capital will change a little. Obviously, teams might make trades, but that aside, we have a couple games yet, so, you know, the Chiefs could end up with the 29th pick or the 30th pick or the 31st or 32nd. But anyway, I mean, you're in the ballpark. Plus, comp picks will come out, so that'll add to a lot of teams' draft assets. That's not for a little while yet. And I don't think the Steelers are in line to get much in the way of comp picks because they brought in more than they lost last year. So I want to stress the division. I want to talk about the teams at the very top. And I definitely want to stress the Steelers, of course. So we're going to start with draft capital. Basically, when you take the draft chart and you add up all the value of every team's current draft picks, who's at the top of the list? One team, unfortunately, is pretty high above the rest, and that's the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are a pretty distant first in terms of draft capital. Remember, they traded Judon. They obviously have an early pick in every round. They traded Amari Cooper. So they did this on purpose, and they knew that there were tough times ahead. So they are kind of in a tier by themselves. And then Jacksonville, Vegas, and the Patriots are right below them. Then you're looking at the Giants and Tennessee. Okay, those are the top teams. The worst teams, the Vikings, have very little. The Lions have very little. Washington. Those are the teams at the way bottom. The Steelers, unfortunately, are 24th on this list, so they're closer to the bottom. They pick later in the rounds. They've made some trades, Mike Williams, Fields, etc. So in terms of the AFC North, the Steelers have the worst draft capital out there. They're 24th. As mentioned, the Browns are 1. The Bengals are 20. And why can't I find the Ravens? I'm not sure why they're this high, but they are 18th. So the Browns, Bengals, Steelers, or the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers are all reasonably close to one another in terms of their draft assets. The Browns have way more, so important stuff here. I mean, I would love to figure out a way, and I have not exactly figured out such a way, that the Steelers could pick up some more draft assets, frankly, without, really trading Pickens, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that's one of the easiest ways to get there in terms of, building up a nice bevy of picks. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, to be honest with you. I don't mean to tease you with that by any means. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the easiest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to Bet Online today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Now, I probably should have mentioned this too. I don't think that there is any way the Steelers are going to trade Watt, Minka, foundational pieces for draft picks. Just to go back there on how they could add picks. I think it's just going to be sort of a light year. But fortunately, the Steelers are in really good salary cap situation right now. And you look at who's at the top of the list in terms of salary cap availability. And right now, the Steelers have around $40 million, which is fine, but they have a lot of resources to improve that. I mean, there's guys like Preston Smith, Ogunjobi, Cordarrelle Patterson, Holcomb, that is going to free up a lot of money. And I think that they probably will add, extend TJ Watt. That'll add quite a bit as well. And Dale Lawley and I, on the drive did this yesterday, and we very easily got to making about $100 million in cap space. So you can be a serious buyer in free agency. And I think they will be. No one's told me that, but of course you got to get a quarterback or two under contract would be nice. But that is going to, I think that's going to be the means towards improving the roster. Draft, of course, too. They're a very heavy draft team. We know that. And they need to have a third, what looks like could be potentially 3 really good drafts in a row, which could go a very long way. But as it stands right now, and a lot of teams have a lot of cap flexibility, so I'm not going to stress this side of it as much because teams have a lot of cuts coming and things like that. But the Patriots are well above the rest of the league. They have $120 million already. Raiders are second, Commanders are third, Cardinals are fourth. Bengals come in about ninth. They got about $47 million. As mentioned, the Steelers, as it stands, the second are at 40. The Ravens are very low. They only have 17. And then there's the teams in the negatives. And as usual, the Saints are the worst off of any team in the league. That's like that every year for them. But your Cleveland Brownies are the exact opposite. They're $30 million in the hole. I mean, the teams that are really in bad shape are the Saints at minus $52 million, the Browns at minus $30 million, Seattle minus 27, Dolphins minus 11, and then the Falcons, Bills, and Cowboys are also in the red. So Cleveland, as they always are, is in a crazy situation in terms of great draft capital, no salary cap space. And again, that's on purpose. They're going to bring in cheap talent via the draft, maybe a quarterback. They've also been rumored to maybe they would sign Kirk Cousins to a Wilson deal if he's cut. Who knows? We'll talk about that stuff when it happens. But the thing I wanted to stress most is on this Pro Football Focus article, there's a chart that just combines effective salary cap space, draft capital, as well as restructure potential. Like Steelers could restructure Patrick Queen's contract and open up a good chunk. Something that'd be really easy to do. Things like that. Cam Hayward, you could restructure his contract, open up a big chunk. That's some things Dale and I talked about yesterday to get him easily to $100 million. So I disagree a little bit with this, just from the Steelers. In terms of their restructure potential, I think that they're actually probably a little higher and a little more flexibility than Pro Football Focus is giving them credit. But when you combine all your offseason assets, draft, cap, flexibility, I guess are the 3 ways of looking at that. The Steelers come in like middle of the pack, 18th in terms of ability to get better. I mean, they just call it which teams have the best means to get better this offseason. And they have the Steelers basically middle of the road. And the Bengals are 1 step ahead of them. They're at 17. The Ravens are at, where are the Ravens? The Browns are at 12, basically all based on draft capital, as you can imagine. And the Ravens are very low. They're at 28, and they have some serious guys up for free agency, like Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle. So don't expect a lot of additions in Baltimore. The Browns are going to have a lot of their additions via the draft. The Steelers will do both, but I think it'll be more free agent heavy in terms of, where the piece of the pie. Bengals are pretty much right in the middle, and they're probably going to give Chase or Higgins and a lot of that chunk as well. But here are the teams that are set up to improve the most. There's two teams that really stand out, and they're AFC teams. It's the Patriots and the Raiders. They have way more assets than any other team in the league. Next up are the Bears, who just hired a new head coach yesterday. Pretty attractive job. You know, you get a young quarterback. You don't need a quarterback. You don't know if he's great yet, but you got a ton of assets to rebuild that team. The Titans are next, and the Jets and Giants are 5th and 6th. So, as usual, they're the bad teams. You know, that's how the league works. You get early picks. Hopefully your cap's not a total disaster if you're those teams. And then these are the teams that are most hampered, just don't have a lot in the way of assets. Seattle's a pretty distant 32nd. The Falcons are 31. The Saints, again, as usual, because their cap, are 30. The Eagles and Ravens and Lions and Chiefs and Bills and Texans are all next. And I went kind of because they're all either just playing, they all played this weekend, you know, so between the 24th and 29th, you get the Texans, Bills, Chiefs, Lions, Ravens, Eagles, all of whom just played, are pretty much going to more or less probably run it back, which is good because you're good, but it's hard to, if you're not getting better in this league, you're getting worse. Now, that doesn't mean, oh, no, the Chiefs are going to be terrible next year. The Lions are in big trouble. Not what I'm saying. But some of the top teams don't happen to have massive assets this year. And I think the Steelers are in good shape. I mean, again, their draft capital is fine. It's, 21st pick in the rounds. They've traded away some 5th and 6th type round picks that would be nice to recoup. But I do think you're going to see a lot of cap space available, and I think they'll be active in using it quarterback first, whether in that conversation we're going to have on a podcast coming up here, what I would do. And I think receiver and corner, or maybe a nose, are where your big ticket items could come from. And we'll talk about some of those names going forward too. So your Steelers are in pretty good shape, but everything's relative. I mean, they're not as good a shape as the Raiders or Patriots. I mean, if you get in a bidding war for T. Higgins with the Patriots, you're probably going to lose. You know what I mean? So there you have it. Thanks, everyone. These are things you need to know going into the offseason, and that time has come. And we got Senior Bowl a week from now. I mean, there's only 3 more football games left, so that's where we're at. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.